Hello, fellow guitar geeks. This is Dan Wynn, and Tony shared my guitarsenal pick and stuff on his show a couple weeks ago, and it just kind of had kind of a dry, bland description. This is my guitars. This is what this one is. This one. This one. This one. Big deal, right? So I thought I'd share with you all what my first of all my guitarsenal's almost completely changed since then. I had 4 guitars then. I have 4 now, but 3 of the 4 are different than the 4 that were shared then anyway. So I thought I'd share with you what my guitars are and the stories behind them. So I have 2 electric, 2 acoustic, and so where should I start? So let me start with my newest guitar. So if you saw that guitarsenal pick over on acousticlife.tv, you saw that one of my guitars was an American Telecaster. Well, I sold that one, and after I sold it, I bought this. This is a GNL ASAT Junior 2. It's basically a Telecaster with P90 pickups. And unlike, some guitars you could say, well, that's a copy of the Fender this or Fender that. Well, the L in GNL stands for Leo, as in Leo Fender. After he sold his company to CBS, Leo Fender went on to start Music Man with Ernie Ball, and then continued to do work under the name, I think it was CLF Research. I forget what the C stands for, but it's his actual first name, so C. Leo Fender Research. And so yeah, he wasn't a big fan of going back to making Strats and Tellies. He felt like he wanted to do something else. But he's also a smart businessman and recognized that the market wanted him to make Strats and Tellies. So this is called, as I said, the ASAT Junior 2. Now, ASAT is a whole series of his guitars, and I was curious what ASAT stood for. So I couldn't really find anything official on the GNL website, so I kind of Googled it, and I think I did find an official answer. But it's interesting how they get there, because, by the way, this is all that's interesting about this guitar. It's a new guitar. I bought it the day I sold the Telecaster, and I bought this. It's more the company itself that's interesting than the guitar, the story behind it. I just bought it. I wanted something a little bit different. I like the Telecaster style, but I wanted something a little bit different in the pickups, and that's what this is. But anyway, back to the ASAT thing. So there's some speculation that ASAT was either Leo Fender saying, oh, come on, another Strat, another Telly. Or some say it might have been advanced Strat, advanced Telecaster, alternative Strat, alternative Telecaster. The story goes, however, there was somebody at the company who, at the time they were developing the ASAT line, who pointed out that the Air Force was working on an anti-satellite missile. And since Leo and George Fullerton, the G in GNL, thought the idea of shooting things out of the sky with guitars is cool, they said, yeah, that's our official line. What ASAT stands for, it's anti-satellite. It's their company, they can do what they want, right? So that's how the ASAT line came to be. That's their official line. What the ASAT means in the ASAT line. So that's my newest guitar. I just got this one about a month ago. Moving on. So my other electric is also a GNL. This is the S500, which is their Stratocaster. So before this, I had, as you might have seen in my guitarsenal, I had an American Telecaster and a Squier Telecaster. I play electric guitar on my church's worship band, and I'm too lazy to schlep gear. Well, I was too lazy to schlep gear back and forth every Sunday and every day that we practice. So I would keep the American Telecaster at the church, along with my amp and my pedals, and I would have the Squier at home that I would practice on. With the COVID pandemic, I brought home my American Telecaster. So, and I was kind of like, I like the different sound that you get. I really like the sound of the Telecaster, but I also like the sound of the Strat. So I started looking into buying one. So I put the Squier for sale, and I sold it. And then I looked into getting a Strat, and I found this on Letgo. This is currently my oldest guitar. This is only 2011. So yeah, got a good deal on it. It's made in Indonesia, which is a pretty good source for the offshore-made guitars. So yeah, it sounds pretty good. All right, moving on. So, some of you might have seen in some of my videos I mentioned I work for FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and because of that I travel a lot. And so my first disaster I went to was in Texas in 2017 for Hurricane Harvey. Now, let me back up. Well, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. So at the time, all I had was a $2,000 Gibson Hummingbird Pro. And if you've ever seen the music video United Breaks Guitars, you can understand why I was not willing to trust the airlines with my $2,000 Gibson. So I went to Texas. While I was there, I bought this $100 Yamaha. It was a fine guitar. It was very playable, sounded nice. And I figured, you know, there's no way this is going to survive a trip home on the plane, so I could afford to give it away when I was done. So I was in Texas for about 2.5 months, and sure enough, when I was ready to come home, I gave the guitar away and came home. A couple weeks later, I was going up to California for another disaster, and I saw a guy carrying a guitar. I said, "Dude, haven't you ever seen United Breaks Guitars?" And he told me how he always gate checks his guitar and has never had a problem. I thought, oh, I'll try that. So when I was in California, I bought another cheap Yamaha, and brought it back home with me on Christmas break, and then home when I was finished in California, and had no problems with the airlines. Although an airline, I think, did damage it on the when I flew to Puerto Rico the following June. That guitar, there was a break right along the binding in the back of the guitar. So it still functioned, but it was, again, it was a $100 guitar. So then I brought it with me when I went to Hawaii in July of that year, but I never took it out of its case. I was there for a month. I only had one day off, and while I was in Hawaii, I was going to spend my only day off sitting in my hotel room playing guitar. So anyway, as a result of not ever taking it out of the case, when I went to Puerto Rico again in September, I didn't take a guitar with me. Well, while I was there, I had an opportunity to play with a church, and so I went to a local store in Guaynabo and bought a guitar. I ended up buying a Breedlove, which was included in that guitarsenal pictures. Very nice guitars. They were like $400, and they are very playable. They sound really good, and the electronics are such that they sound exactly like they do unplugged, but louder. So they're really good for that price point. And so that one went with me, came home with me from Puerto Rico, went to California again, went to Alabama, South Dakota, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. But then I saw Tony's review of the overhead, the Journey Instruments overhead first class travel guitar, and I went and bought one. They're really good. I've done one or two of my Song Vault stage songs with it, and they sound really good, and I look forward to the next time I travel again taking it with me and not having to worry about gate checking and what the baggage handlers might do to my guitar. So that's how I got this one.
White towels, please.
I'm recording.
Oh.
Last but not least is, as many of you have seen in some of my Song Vault videos, my Taylor T24CE Koa. So I mentioned a minute ago that I had a Gibson Hummingbird Pro. So my dad passed away in 2012, and in 2013 when I got my share of his estate, I paid a bunch of bills, and I had some money left over, and I hadn't gotten GAS yet. So all I had was my Telecaster, my American Telecaster. So I thought I might like to get something nice to remember him by, and I thought about, and eventually settled on getting a good acoustic guitar. And I wanted to do something to customize it, to memorialize my dad. So I ended up getting a custom-made truss rod cover with his initials and lifespan on it. So I was okay. I was good with the Gibson, but I learned a lesson kind of the hard way. Went into the guitar store and picked up a couple of Gibsons and settled on that one, and played some chords I like to play, some nice comfortable chords, and like, yeah, this is great. Let me go for it. It wasn't until a couple of years ago, and I had to play it capoed up, and I realized the neck was way too big for my hand to play comfortably. So I put the guitar up for sale, and the guy offered me a Taylor T5 in trade. The T5 is a thin line acoustic electric that kind of works as a hybrid between now this is acoustic electric as well, but the TA is one that can play as an acoustic or play as an electric, and they do them both well. But like anything else like that, it doesn't play as an acoustic as well as an acoustic, and doesn't play electric as well as an electric, especially because you can't really get into the higher registers on the neck isn't long enough. Fortunately, a good friend of mine was there when I made the trade, and he told me that at that moment, if I ever decided to sell it, he'd buy it. So I called him up and said, "Hey, let's go to the guitar store, and if I see something I like, we can make a deal." And that's when I found this fine Taylor, and he bought the T5 from me. I bought this, and then I went and had the truss rod cover made. You see right there, it says JTW 1938 2012, and that's the story behind my Taylor, and that's the story behind my guitarsenal. Hope you found this interesting, and I hope some of you are inspired to post your own guitarsenal stories here in this forum as well. Thanks.